Network. The Development Corporation of McAllen from McAllen City Hall. The Development Corporation appointed by the City Commission is charged with making recommendations on how to use money that's been raised from the half-cent sales tax that was approved by McAllen voters on May the 3rd, 1997. The recommendation is made to the City Commission. They make the final decision. And now, the Development Corporation of McAllen.
Ready? Okay, thank you, and good afternoon. We'll convene the meeting of the Development Corporation of McAllen and also the McAllen Community Development Advisory Board here today. Welcome you all too. With your permission, we'll jump into the agenda and we'll go to item 2, which is consideration approval of the Boys and Girls Club McAllen contract.
Could we do the other one first, Mayor? I think I need to get somebody in for.
Okay, we'll go to consideration approval for publication of notice issue sales tax revenue bond to finance certain facilities at the Angelo Lewis International Toll Bridge. Is that Kevin?
Yes, sir, I'll take that, and I apologize that I didn't get the backup in there, but it's the very, very preliminary step necessary to authorize the possible use of bonds by the Development Corporation to fund the much talked about expansion and improvements at Angelo Lewis. This is just the first step. All it does is give the staff the authority to publish that as a project under the applicable acts. And once that timeline runs, it would come back for approval or not as a project. All of that are steps in the process that need to get instituted. And without going into the details, I think we discussed at the last City Commission meeting that it may be necessary before we issue those bonds to file a validation lawsuit to ensure that the bonds are properly approved, since we're having a little trouble at the AG's office on that. So this just starts the clock ticking on all that, and we're recommending that the board respectfully approve or authorize the staff to publish notice of the Angelo Lewis expansion as a project under the corporation.
Now, two things on that is the lawsuit is actually, we created the statute for the lawsuit on bridges to be validated when you issue bonds because they're relatively new, either by an issuance by the issuer or a new type of issue by an existing issuer. And so the lawsuit's really not, it's against the world, but it's really to have a court validate it and process it. The Attorney General is either used informally or by statute like the original toll bridge bond issues. And then secondarily, there'll be an agreement signed between the City of McAllen and the Angelo Lewis and Hidalgo International Bridge Boards to reimburse the city all bond costs and provide the debt service payments. So,
that's right, Mayor. So, you know, the plan would be to borrow the money and the guarantor being the Development Corp, but the revenue from the bridge would actually pay back the development.
They're not revenue bonds per se. Obviously, they're paid by sales tax, but the reimbursement will be via similar to a revenue bond payable by Angelo Lewis and the Hidalgo Bridge.
And we don't have a number at this point. Our best guess is that we will need about 14 million. 22 million right now is in the MPO plan and subject to approval from the Transportation Commission. We already have $4 million from a prior MPO award. We've been told that we are eligible for a $13 million low-interest loan from the federal government, and so the gap is 14 million.
Let me ask you, on the $13 million loan from the federal government, will that be paid similar to, it will be with the City of McAllen, or will be with the, because really this bridge board functions through the city, so that would be an additional amount that the bridge board would, debt service would pay for back to the city.
Right.
Okay, any other questions?
Mayor, I just had a quick, what are we thinking the total project's gonna be costing?
The total project is approximately $53 million. 53.
And we should be pretty close to 50% of the engineering done
right.
With that. And as they do develop that, we'll have a better idea, but that's the original DAP proposal with the federal government. It was that estimates. And I think the only other thing that's going to possibly change on that is the technology requirements. That'll be one of the most modern bridges, freight bridges in the country on the border. And so we're waiting to see that, although they did put technology in the original estimates. So maybe it goes down, who knows?
Okay,
Roy,
thank you.
Roy, $53 million. What's the scope? What is it we're doing?
All of the infrastructure, roadways, drainage, water, sewer, then vertical construction of.
The GSA and everything?
Yeah, exactly, GSA, CBP, yes, sir.
If it's a GSA building with walls and all that, then you get to lease it back, lease it to GSA. Most of this is, because of cargo, is not in buildings. It's waiting areas, secondary
Docks.
inspection, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so there won't be, and we're also building the southbound facilities too, at the same time for GSA to do inspections on the southbound. Those are relatively fractions of several $1 million, I think.
Yeah, about six, probably,
About
6 or
6
7.
million will be southbound facilities. Not as intensive, obviously, as the northbound facilities.
No, it's a great project. Where are we on the environmental on it?
The environmental was complete, and I think there's a second phase that's being completed as part of the design.
And it's all being done by SMB?
Correct.
That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the publication and notice to issue sales tax revenue bonds as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, a motion to approve, I have a second? Second. I have a second by Sevi. Any discussions or questions from any? Okay, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. The second is approval of the Boys and Girls Club of McAllen Inc. contract extension. Who's doing that?
You good?
So, the Boys and Girls Club asked if you wouldn't mind extending their contract through December 30th. The contract is set to expire September 30th, and because they were shut down during a period of time, they would like the opportunity to extend their expenses through the end of the calendar year. We thought it appropriate to bring it before the board because they did assist us by providing childcare to first responders during the time that that they were closed, but they allowed the opportunity for first responders' children to have childcare. So we thought we would like to present it to you and decide whether you'd like to extend the contract.
I had a couple of questions. Number one, they didn't use CBDG money to do the child care. They did that out of their normal budget. Is
That's
that
correct. That's correct.
Okay, and then number two, so this extension, does that have to be federally approved or?
No, because it's DCMI fund. I will say that the commission did opt to extend the contract for general fund, but since this is a separate contract under DCMI, we need to bring it before the board.
And are we gonna see other entities come up forward and say they,
We actually asked them to continue the September 30th deadline. We just felt that this agency, because they provided childcare during our time of need, should take special consideration.
okay, is there any questions, anybody?
No, just a comment, Mayor and Roy, just, I can't say enough good things about the work Dalinda and her team are doing at the Boys and Girls Club. I think that really McAllen has set itself apart from the rest of the Boys and Girls Clubs here in the Rio Grande Valley with her initiatives and what she's brought to the table. So
I agree.
just a compliment to Dolly and everything she's doing there at the McAllen Boys and Girls Club.
We'll pass that on, thank you.
And you might say, I think one of the questions we're certainly gonna ask of all the agencies today is, how are they gonna function for as long as this COVID pandemic is affecting operations? And so hopefully, we'll get a report from the Boys and Girls Club of how they expect to open as partially, and I don't think anybody's gonna open 100% right off the bat, but partial openings, providing services.
Yeah.
And anybody else have any questions, comments?
I was just wondering, has any other agency asked for the same, or do people have any others asking for that?
We held steady with the September 30th deadline with everyone else.
If they have asked, we've told them September 30th is a deadline.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the Boys and Girls Club contract extension.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and second. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay, now we go to the regular agenda item number 1. Oh, no, is that right? No, I'm sorry.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, 1. And we're gonna do these, as they come in, as Big Street, Swing Street Big Band, right?
We need to let the city board open up their meeting.
Oh, I did, okay. I think I opened it up for him. Yeah. Okay, welcome to hear it.
Swing Street Band was actually supposed to be virtual, so they may be online already.
And you might explain it, my understanding is this is just a presentation?
Correct.
Okay.
And Bob's here too.
So this is just a presentation, we don't make any decisions today, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
And
That is
so
correct.
That's
we could
correct.
ask, maybe the first question, go ahead. And be ready to say how you're gonna, if you're not operating, how you're gonna operate, or what your plans are based on the pandemic.
Well, first of all, I'd like to state my sadness for the stage of our beautiful Performing Arts Center being dark at this time. And we just look forward to the time when we can open up again, and we think Swing Street can be very helpful in doing so. We think that it may not be feasible to put like a 70-piece orchestra or 80-piece band on the stage, but our 18-piece group might be able to provide some entertainment as we ease back into presentations at the Performing Arts Center. We started this spring, we did 2 performances of the 6 that we were supposed to do. We did a Car Fest show, and we also played at the Performing Arts Center just prior to the Jersey Boys show. And we were scheduled to do 4 more of those, but obviously the Performing Arts Center closed. So what we would like to do is, our request is exactly the same as last year. And, you know, we serve at the wishes of the city, and we want to do everything we can possibly do to help get it back opened up again as soon as they want to open.
Okay, you guys did fantastic at the car show. I saw the performance, it was really top notch.
Thank you very much.
You know, we're planning some virtual things through Joe Vera, I think. And the idea is maybe it's possible to have you guys perform virtually as part of our different programs that we're doing now and that we're planning in the future.
All right, just let us know. We will be available. Our musicians are more than ready to play, trust me.
We just got to figure out how you space them across. You know, that's a pretty big room to play musical instruments together. But, yeah.
Another possibility might be outdoors on the stage there in Mobile Park.
Yeah. Okay, has anybody got?
By the way, we have an outstanding Christmas tree we can do, and that might be of some advantage to the city as well, after Christmas tree lighting or whatever.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Going once? Going twice? Well, okay, thank you very much, and this was kind of your chance to let us know you're still around and all that, and we'll be looking at budgets and making those kind of decisions at the subsequent meeting. I appreciate it very much, thank you. Thank you. Okay, South Texas College?
Yes, hi, good evening, Mayor. Members of the Development Corporation, Chicago, Margot. I'm the Associate Dean at South Texas College for the Institute for Advanced Manufacturing, Industry Training, and Economic Development. And also have a staff, Leo Garcia, as our training manager. And I was going to really provide a summary of our proposal that was submitted to the Development Corporation. And this is our current contract now. To train 500 variety of different industries in manufacturing. And I know I have only 5 minutes, but a lot of the lead during the fight, the pandemic that we have. We shifted to all our training programs and those that are available for them on regular. So that our clients are available and community are that everything will continue and very specific for purposes of COVID.
Yeah, Carlos, could you get a little closer to your mic, and if anybody's on, could they mute their phone, so you're coming across a little, breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, can you?
Okay, yeah, what I was saying is, we do have additional training, for new training programs that have been in response to the pandemic. These are safety training programs. These are other training programs that are COVID related that we've recently been developing. And as I mentioned before, all of these training programs will continue to be online and offered on a virtual basis for this coming year as well. And some of these COVID-specific training programs, which we've been getting a lot of requests for, are for employer safety, disinfecting specialist training, re-entry training, that's another one, to help individuals who have been laid off, furloughed perhaps, or are coming back into work, whether it's the same job or a different job, to help them acclimate and work within the guidelines and context of the new COVID environment. So that's another one. And then we have other compliance training programs for employers as well that we'll be proposing as part of this contract for this coming year as well. So in summary, it's a continuation of our training that we've been doing for the City of McAllen business and industry members, but with the addition of the online platform that we're going to make sure that we continue to offer. And in addition to that, to offer these COVID-specific training programs that actually been working with the state, Texas Workforce Commission to help develop these programs. But we'll be proposing to offer these trainings for the city of McAllen businesses as well within the scope of this project. So again, we're proposing to train 500 City of McAllen employees, businesses within the City of McAllen. And typically we surpass that number. Year after year, we've been surpassing our benchmark by a couple of hundred individuals, and we anticipate doing the same thing this proposed year should we get the grant this year as well. So that is, in summary, what we have, what we're proposing through South Texas College or our Office of Business and Industry Training. And if you have any questions at this time, I'll be glad to answer those.
Okay, any questions?
So, Mr. Margo, how are you? This is Elva Cerda. So, last year we awarded you 259, and so this year you're asking for an additional 211. I don't recall what your request was last year, and I don't have that information. So basically, you're thinking you need another 200,000 to accomplish the same, because you haven't drawn the full amount yet. I noticed that, and so I'm just wondering about the extra 200,000.
Well, yes, our proposal last year was the same as this proposed amount. I believe it was 470,000 last year as well. So we were provided the 259, so we adjusted accordingly. But we are prepared to implement a project that is at the $470,000 level.
Which is the one that you were just discussing about the platform?
Exactly. Yes. Correct. And then that's it. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, I think there's if I could say two things. Number one, I deal with McAllen Economic Development Corporation and want to thank the college. They've been on a lot of recruiting trips for us and have really streamlined training to the needs of the people we're trying to recruit in the area, and have done a fantastic job. It's a real asset to have them. Secondarily, I think one of the reasons that we cut last year, besides whatever, was that a lot of the training we've been doing for a number of years, and so I think we asked STC that maybe if they looked into a program where they're charging, at least their costs, recovering their costs for doing some of the safety programs that were required under OSHA, if they could do that. Carlos, have you thought about that, or has that been implemented at all? Do you know?
Yeah, some of the standard safety OSHA 10, OSHA 30 programs that companies were going to take anyway. We are shying away from those training programs and trying to focus on either new training or training for new employees, courses that have been developed. For example, the ones we're developing right now specifically for this context of the environment we're in right now. And that's been the trend over the last 2-3 years actually, where we're having the employers pay their own way when it comes to standard OSHA type training, CPR, first aid, forklift, those type of things. But when it comes to something new that'll help them, or something customized that'll help them improve a process, or something that'll help them become more efficient, then we'll offer the training like that. So yes, that's something there we've been doing for the last 3 years at least.
And a lot of your people go through the training, they actually end up with a raise because they've increased their quality of work or skill levels, I think.
Wages increase as a result, yes. productivity increases, efficiency increases, and a lot of that data we do have documented as a substantial return on the investment from the city.
Great. Anybody else have any questions,
I just have a
comments?
question on the 500 workers described here. I mean, would those all be new jobs, or are we retraining employees that we've already provided funds to train? Is it?
We refer to those as new employment. In other words, they're either existing employees who need to upgrade their skills, or they're recently hired individuals who are new to a business. So it's a combination of new hires and existing employees.
Okay.
And maybe for the city manager, what was the amount that we did last year? Because I thought the same as Elva, it was going from 260 to 470. But you said that's not the case.
Yeah, it was 259, 440,
That's
right?
the amount we
Right.
did last year, 259, 440.
Yeah.
They asked for the same amount. They asked for the four.
And 2 years ago, it was 400, it was the money. So last year was a reduction from what we normally provide for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe the last two years have been the same amount. Whatever we got this year was the same the year before that.
Okay. But then 3 years ago was greater than, we did a reduction.
Right. I think 3 years ago was a lot higher.
Yeah. Okay. You done?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Any other questions or comments?
I got a question. So if we came in at a lower amount, let's say 270 or something, would the program still be able to exist?
Yes, this will do exactly the same thing we did this year, last year. We scaled down, and of course, we have to reduce the number of training because of the employee constraints. But yes, we'll still leave it off of the program, just like we're doing this year, and we're on track to meet our goals this year as well. Of course, with a reduced amount. So we adjust, this is what we do, but still offer the same training, just to a limited number of employers and employees.
Okay, thanks.
And do the employers have any participation in the training cost, or is it?
That's what I said, yeah.
It is?
Especially the OSHA training cost. Depending if we're recruiting a new business or not, it may be. But certainly, that would be something we'd look at besides just the OSHA training is special skills if they wanted to require some payments for that. I didn't have your presentation right in front of me. In your presentation, Carlos, do you list what revenue you've gotten through third parties for training their employees?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question, I'm sorry.
Do you have a list of the funds you received from third parties for training their employees from private business?
Yeah, we have a list of revenue. If I understand the question correctly, in the proposal, it has revenue or other grants that we receive from other organizations as well. Was that the question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
That's on your cover sheet too, Mr. Martin, correct? That's what you listed on the cover sheet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anybody? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Carlos.
Thank you for your support and the city and council support through the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Affordable Homes of South Texas, Inc.
He's here in person, just gonna bring him in.
We're gonna bring them in from the green room. Hey, Barry. Hey, Mayor. Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, I'll let Julian start.
Yeah, get close to the microphone, please.
Good evening. My name is Julian Lopez. I'm president of Affordable Homes South Texas. This is Bobby Carrillo, our executive director. We're here this evening to follow up with our rehab program. And looking at the past couple of years, it's been really good help from the city, and we appreciate it. This year, our request is not as much as the past years, but keeping in mind that the program is a wonderful program. I've been part of Affordable Homes for 8 years and sitting in some of these subcommittees, and some of the things that the money goes allocated for is really heartwarming. So once again, we appreciate the help from the city.
So I'll just give a quick summary and stand ready for questions. So our request is for $223,735. That is, as Julian mentioned, a decrease from our request last year, and a decrease from the year before. Obviously, we know the situation with sales tax, and we're willing to do our part to help support that. We are working on trying to match those funds, as we always do, and hopefully we'll be successful in that. So our request says we're gonna build 3 homes. We don't know if it'll be 3, it'll be 6, it'll be 9. It just depends on the process. So what we do is we'll go into the house and evaluate the condition. If we can repair it, we will repair it up to $30,000. If it's beyond repair, if it's gonna be beyond that cost, then we'll demolish it and build a new one. So in our estimates, we estimated 1 repair and 2 replacements. But it could be all replacements, or it could be all rehabs, we just don't know. So that's what we're estimating at this point. And of course, there's 25% of that is for administrative expenses, including salaries and some expenses that are necessary for that program. Happy to answer any questions.
Bobby, so there's really not a decrease in what you're gonna produce. It's just that you're not sure whether it's gonna be a rehab or it's gonna be a demo and a rebuild? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, at this point, we don't know. It could wind up being all rehabs.
So if it's you might be able to do more than 3 if it's rehab,
Right.
you just don't know.
That's right. And even with the rehabs, the cap is 30,000, but it could be 10 or 15 that they need.
Okay. What do you do with the families during rehab?
So we have, I believe it's 2 or 3 units that are near our offices that we built in some duplex units that we have. So we provide those units for those families that have nowhere else to go at no cost.
Okay. Any other questions or comments relating to this program?
Only comment I'd like to make, Mayor, is, and Bobby, y'all have an outstanding organization. Your track record is impeccable, and y'all really do a lot of good, and appreciate all y'all do for the city.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it? Any comments or questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Bobby.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you,
Thank you.
Leon.
Thank you.
The next charity is Comfort House. You bring him in? Michelle. I lost my,
Your agenda?
yeah. No, I lost my thing. Oh. Okay, welcome.
Hello.
This is a development corporation with city commissioners on board and also the CBDG board members.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your request and presentation.
Okay, good evening, respective individuals who are in here. Thank you for having us. Please excuse my anxiety at the moment, but we'll be okay. I come here today to represent Comfort House, and the proposal that we have submitted is for assistance for our caregivers who provide the 24-hour palliative care to the terminally ill who have a prognosis of 4 months or less to live. I know a lot of people say, yeah, I've heard of Comfort House. Yeah, I've been there, but I ask, have you truly been there? Have you sat there with somebody who has nobody next to them to hold their hand or to talk to them or to pray with them or just to say thank you for being alive? Because right now we do have the house full, and we have since the pandemic started, and we have not closed our doors, we have not stopped taking patients, and we have also continued to allow visitors, which is the only place for quite some time south of San Antonio that still allowed visitors to come in to visit their loved ones. Recently, we did have to cut down our visiting hours to a visiting hour due to rising numbers, and we're not equipped to handle COVID. However, the staff is truly amazing, and we have housed 130 people in the past year, over 2,700 the past 31 years, and we continue to provide the service for these individuals, many of them without family, many of them with, and what we are asking for is the minimum to keep us going, to keep our staff of 11 caregivers to provide them with their salaries.
Well, I guess I can ask, anybody have a question? How has the pandemic affected your operations?
We are not equipped at all to handle anybody with COVID, and we get calls daily from hospitals, from nursing homes if we can take in these people, and obviously we cannot. What we have done is we have tightened up our intake process. We have also tightened up our screening process for all of our visitors because on top of it, we can't add something on to those that are already there with the terminal illness. So it's affected us in many different ways. It's heightened our levels of security, admission, and doing our best just to keep sanitized, you know. We've been blessed and fortunate to keep it out so far, and we're going to continue to try to do so, even with allowing visitors in.
So you have to restrict visitors, okay?
Yes, yes. Everybody gets a temperature taken. Everybody is asked a series of questions, and if anybody is not feeling well, of course, we don't allow them in.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is Lift Fund Inc. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
we're gonna be up on the wall there, I guess, if you guys can see me. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes, you're
This
fine.
is Richard Gianni. We met, many weeks ago now. Just disappointed I couldn't be down here in person this evening. I'm also joined on the call by Marlene. Most of you know Marlene. She's been doing a lot of great business in that community and helping a lot of small businesses for many years. And we're here to discuss the opportunity or possibility of redoing the interest buy-down program that the city of McAllen implemented in a partnership with the fund. It's now 7 years, back in 2013. We know that there is going to be, as we hopefully start moving into more of a scope of recovery, we're going to need more capital, and we know that fund will be more needed than ever before to help some of these small businesses that do make it through this with ongoing capital for stabilization needs. And as you all know, the buy-down program that the city was one of the pioneer cities in doing this helps keep that cost of capital low at 0%. And that's going to be needed as we go forward, perhaps more than ever before. I wanted to give the city some additional data in terms of what has been accomplished over the past 7 years. We've now deployed about $3.8 million in loans to small businesses within the city's footprint with the interest buy-down program at 0% since the inception of this partnership. That translates into about 142 loans, full-time equivalent jobs that have been created, about 240, and jobs that have been retained, saved, or retained, about 409. So this investment in terms of buying these interest rates down and keeping the cost of capital at a low level is going to be very helpful, as I said a moment ago, as we go forward. We are very, very proud of the partnership with the city of McAllen, and we need to request for considerations for the renewal of this program for what would be now the 8th year.
How is the, I'll ask a question. How is the federal policy, loan policy, et cetera, dealing with the pandemic, change how you do operations? And I mean, there's not many startup businesses right now. Retention of employees, they've had the PPE loans to do, whatever the loan is, to do that. So how is that affecting your business from that standpoint and now and looking forward?
So we're continuing to assess that. I know one of the comments that I made when I was down there earlier, you know, we are in uncharted territory at this point in regards to what we've considered to be normal underwriting criteria. What's that going to translate into as we go into the future with regards to risk management? We are exploring that. We're assessing the conditions in our portfolio with our existing clients today, what that's going to look like. We're not prepared yet to go into a more normalized state of lending. I think there's just a lot more we still don't know. We're still doing a lot of recovery lending at this particular point, and also a lot of grant deployment, because that is really right now what the current need is. Since this would be renewed if it gets approved going into the new fiscal year, we would expect, I would hope, that we will be in a position economically to start providing a more normalized level of capital for businesses who have made it beyond all of this, as well as start to take a look at startups. We're going to have a lot of reassessment to do, though, to answer your question, in terms of what's that underwriting criteria going to look like when we go into the future. I don't have all the answers for that yet, but we do know the capital needs are going to be there, and this program will help support that for small businesses.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? We lost that. Okay, hearing none? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, next one is the McAllen Economic Development Corporation. Could you state your name for the record? Just kidding.
Well, I'm Keith Patridge, and with me is my board chair, Paul Moxley, and mayor, commissioners, members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to make a presentation on behalf of MEDC. We are, like everyone, we have been suffering under COVID-19. It's impacting our business pretty substantially since travel restrictions and business closing announcements in March and April. Our face-to-face meetings with companies has totally stopped. And so when that happened, why we immediately shifted to online meetings with our companies and virtual tours for companies that had projects that had to continue. And I would like to extend my appreciation to the mayor and the commission and Roy and his team, because we had two companies that really were in the middle of the process that we had to keep moving, and you were able to help us with the incentive requests during that time. I appreciate that a lot, because that has kept those projects moving forward. Then we also had to shift our focus to working with our existing companies rather than new companies. And so we had to help them negotiating questions of essential, non-essential, social distancing, new safety protocols on both sides of the border, because as you know, we also help the maquilas in Reynosa. And our current businesses have managed to adapt well. So far, I think we have had one company that has had what I would call a substantial decline, and that was GE Engine Services. But of course, we all know what happened in the aviation sector, and so We were originally told they were going to lose about 350 jobs. They actually ended up settling at 256, so it wasn't as bad as what we thought it was going to be. Other companies have had to temporarily furlough in order to comply with the social distancing requirements and doing business and meeting all the health and safety requirements. But even in light of the health pandemic, we've been able to maintain project activity. Today, we're actively working with 27 companies, and actively working means that we are in constant contact. Over the last 90 days, we have continued to have contact with those companies and continue to have contact with them on their projects. Those 27 companies would create an estimated 5,885 jobs if we were to get them all, and occupy about 2.3 million square feet of space. Two of those companies are pending final negotiation of the 380 agreement, and one is negotiating building lease terms. Assuming we're successful with those three companies, which I think those are pretty sure, that will add another 440 jobs with an average salary of $43,800. And they will construct between 75,000 and 105,000 square feet of new buildings. Then in addition to those companies, before the COVID hit, we had committed 6 additional companies, and those companies created 1,158 new jobs in McAllen, 1,150 jobs in Reynosa, and they absorbed about 290,000 square feet of space, and 178,000 square feet of that was new construction. In our budget, we are recognizing that this is going to be a tough, challenging budget year for everyone. And so what we did is we sat down preemptively and looked at our budget, and we really looked at how we could really pare it down. And so what we did is we reduced our total budget for this year by 4.41%, from $1,442,152 to $1,381,258. But that's the total budget. From the development court, what we are asking for is $992,968, which is a 14.44% reduction from what we have this year. So we are reducing our request from the city by 14.44%. And to cover the budget shortfall, we are requesting from the McAllen Foreign Trade Zone is there to increase their grant by 35.15%, which would make the total grant requested $364,290 from the Foreign Trade Zone. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll accept those.
Okay, anybody have any questions? None on the screen? Anybody?
Well, I guess just with USMCA, do you think that'll help trigger a different type of maybe industry that'll?
It already is, Commissioner. As you know, you were accompanying us on the trip to China before all of this hit. And one of those companies that you're familiar with, which is still very confidential, we've signed NDAs on them. We are currently working that company, and we've reached a point where they know that their only option is to be on a border location. Because that's the only way that it works under the terms of the USMCA. So that's a company that it's not there yet, but it's moving forward very, very well.
Any other questions? You know, I think I was looking at some information about 3 weeks ago, and Texas incentive programs and all that, and when you look at who we're competing with, the San Antonios and Austins of the world, we do very well considering we're only 142,000. I always thought if we ever got together with our whole county, or at least with Big Four, we could compete with MEDC in a budget that was proximate to what they were competing against. We would, and where we are on the border, we would be very, very successful. We are successful, but we're limited in what we can do, and appreciate all that you do. And I think we're seeing some of the benefit of this side of the border versus the Mexican side as we speak. So that's all my comments. Anybody else?
No, thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Now be careful.
What's that step?
Stay safe, everyone.
Vita, please, if you're gonna send them around here, tell them to be careful.
Yes, Mayor, they actually, since we're running a little early, they aren't here just yet, so if you don't mind going to the next one, which would be.
El Milagro Clinic? Okay.
And they're, I'm sorry, and they're virtual.
Okay, virtual. Who do we have here from El Milagro Clinic?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. There we go.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Michael Lopez. I'm the Executive Director for the Milagro Clinic, and thank you for the opportunity to present our funding request for FY 2021. This request is for $256,000 from 513.82, and it's to support our operating for integrated behavioral health program that we have at the clinic. The main focus of our program is to help to provide healthcare, but also to improve the health of our patients by changing their lifestyle. So our program includes not just medical, but also nutrition, mental health counseling, and physical activity. This year, we are proposing to serve 1,400 patients. That's a little bit more than our current goal of 1,380. We are well on track to exceed our number of McAllen residents that we proposed last year. About 37% of our patient population is from McAllen, and we provide medical services, laboratory services, women's health, facility assistance, as well as what I mentioned about nutrition, mental health counseling, and physical activity, wellness activities like arts and crafts, learn making, and journaling. We're also they're also in through a collaboration with the food bank, we're able to have a food pantry service also can give our patients some veggies every week and do some food distribution that we have once a month. We also collaborate with Hope Family Health Center and their peer support program. They send their programs here once a month. So because of COVID-19, we have had to cancel or suspend for this time all of our wellness classes and group classes. We have dance lessons and base counseling sessions as well as meditation demos. So our wellness center has to be closed for the time being, but we have seen that there is an increased need for our patients to continue to be used for their diabetes and health pressures, and it is now more than ever to be able to get seen at primary health facilities like ours rather than having to go to the ER. So we haven't stopped our operations. We had to stop in the shelter in place. When we had the shelter in place, we stopped seeing these patients, but that was just through April, and pretty soon we realized that we needed to do a little bit more. So we haven't stopped it. It's been pretty steady. We have very strict protocols. We take temperature checks at the very entrance, and we have a whole new route in case it could be a possible COVID case. We have a segregated area for them. And up until last week, we were able to test for COVID. we subcontract last year, PCL. But on June 30th, when the rise in cases, started, they had to pull our supplies and our testing to prevent that in the hospital. So, you know, we'll provide again for the testing review starting next week on Monday. And that's how we're able to help a lot of our patients. And with that, I'll leave the questions if you guys have any.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Marisol, how are you? This is Elba Cerda, how are you?
Very
I
well,
was
thank you.
wondering, I know last year we talked about the possibility, and maybe you did y'all start opening the clinic on Saturdays?
We did not, we haven't yet, and we're still half a day on Friday. We haven't seen the news yet, but yes, it's something that the board is trying to consider, they are keeping it on the table. Yes.
Okay. Elba, anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay, well, be safe out there. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Is Rita here?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay. Good afternoon. Appreciate, this is a Economic Development Corporation and the, yes, corporation. Go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Irma Garcia, I'm the Program Services Manager for VIDA, Valley Initiative for Development and Advancement.
I'm Fabiola Villarreal, and I'm the accounting manager for VITA.
On behalf of our Executive Director Priscilla Alvarez, she does apologize for not being able to be present this evening. VIDA is a community-based nonprofit organization with 24 years history of assisting the economically disadvantaged adult population obtain post-secondary credentials in demand occupations. Our role is to help them address the many barriers they will face as they attend school full-time, because studies show that the types of wraparound services we provide are critical to program completion. We are able to help this hard-to-serve population make it to graduation because we assist financial assistance, supportive services, and our intensive case management model. Our intensive case management is what sets us apart from any other agency. We meet with our students once a week in group and individual settings for 45 minutes to an hour in making sure they are on track for graduation and employment. The pandemic has been hard on our students as they have had to transition to online classes. Some lost their jobs, others have had to juggle their schooling along with their children. We continue to meet with our students via Zoom, Skype, and FaceTime, and all types of social media. We continue to move forward with our students, your residents, in making sure they finish what they started. VIDA has been compared with results from an experimental evaluation of the City University of New York, CUNY, Accelerated Study and Associates Program, which is called ASAP. ASAP provides a good comparison because its effects have been described as the gold standard nationally. Comparing VIDA to CUNY is huge for our community and for our partners such as the City of McAllen. VIDA is economic development. By partnering with you, we are investing in human capital. We are preparing your adult McAllen residents with skills and education to not only become self-sufficient contributors to our community, but we are also supporting existing employers' needs while providing the recruitment of new investors in our communities. This adult population is rooted in our community and is less inclined to move out. Helping people move from poverty to the middle class is not an easy task, nor is it quick, but a sustained effort, and through partnerships like ours, we can help bridge the gap by continuing to serve your adult population that typically stays in our communities after graduation. This is accomplished by people moving off of public assistance into family-sustaining career employment with disposable income that enables them to shop, dine, and invest in their community. Just some data from this fiscal year with the city funding from McAllen. For the fiscal year 1920, our benchmark was to serve 115 McAllen residents. As of July 1st, we have served 118 McAllen residents. 60% are between the ages of 25 and 50. 61% are females. 100% are low-income individuals. 31% are single parents. 41% have 2 dependent children or more in the household. Graduates upon graduating are earning an average salary of $41,808 upon graduation, with a persistence rate of 94%. We are here today respectfully asking that you continue your partnership with VIDA by supporting an investment of $131,000 to serve a minimum of 115 McAllen residents. Thank you for your time.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a question. So, you said on average, after they're done with their program, the average salary is 41,000 or so.
Yes, sir.
How much of an increase is that from what they were making before they completed the program?
For those in an allied health program, which is nursing and medical field, it's like 230% wage increase. For all the other programs, it's between 150 to 170% wage increase. Students, individuals come in with 0 income, some come in with food stamps only, and some come in earning between $7.45 to $10 an hour.
And you said the completion rate for the program is 94%?
Persistence rate.
Persistence.
Yes.
Completion rate would be what percentage?
It takes about 3 years for an individual to graduate, so yearly it's about 50%. For the year 2019, we served total Rio Grande Valley 501 residents. Out of those 501, 50% completed, the other ones rolled over to the following year.
Anybody else have any questions? I had a question, and I apologize, I had trouble reading the budget. Do you provide child care services?
Yes, sir. One of the requirements is that when they apply with VIDA and they request child care assistance, they have to go through CCS first. And if they're denied or they have a copay, then VIDA picks up that copay or the child care assistance.
Do you ever partner with Workforce Solutions? Because they have a multi-million-dollar budget.
Yes, sir. Yes, that they have to go apply through Workforce first, and then.
Do you send them to Workforce to get that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you give me a list of how much you do with, do you know how much Workforce saves you money by providing for that service, child care service?
I don't have the information with me, but we can get that for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
On their balance sheet, there's a item, current liabilities of $822,876. It sounds a little, it seems a little high, just compared with their current assets. What are they doing to try and reduce their short-term liabilities?
Right, so this year we took a more active approach in paying down a lot of that debt, and we've minimized. Yes. So this past year we took a more active approach on paying down our accounts payable account, and in addition to that, we've minimized drawing on our line of credit and taking out loans.
Okay, so the current liabilities are mostly just accounts payable. Who would they be?
Right. So it's the majority of it comes from the colleges. So we've taken an approach on staying on payment plans with them, such as STC and TSC.
Okay, so they're fine with the payment program that y'all have established.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And to Omar's point, those payment programs are typically how long when it's set up?
They're no longer than a year, between a year and 2.
Okay, Omar?
Yeah, good.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.
The next group is Boys and Girls Club of McAllen, Inc. Are they zooming or are they coming in here?
No, they're here.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful. Okay. Well, welcome, and we have the CBDG board here and the Development Corporation, and of course, with the city commissioners and the Development Corp.
Great.
You want to state your name?
Yes, I'm Belinda Alcantar, and I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club.
Tommy Vela, and I'm next year's president of the Boys Club.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
So we are going to be talking a little bit about our DCMI application. And the DCMI application that we have is to currently fund the after-school programming at our school sites. And so that includes our middle school sites as well as our elementary school sites. I can tell you that the application that you have in front of you, of course, is reflecting a traditional school year. However, I do meet and speak regularly with the superintendent, and we of course know that it will not be a regular school year. So we are looking at refocusing the monies towards elementary schools only. The reason being that when we reopened for the First Responders Club, as well as the fact that we are actually serving over 200 summer campers, we reopened with the intention of taking care of children of the ages that they should not be staying at home by themselves. And so the application that you have in front of you really does reflect the traditional way that we were doing things. However, we are looking to pivot with the needs of the superintendent and all of the kids. We also know that right now we want to be part of continuing the economic stability, and we know that parents should not have to choose between affordable childcare and making money for their home. And so that's where we are poised to step in and to make sure that children of school age, elementary, that they have a safe place to be while their parents are making money. So we will still continue to remain open until 7 p.m., the way it was suggested. We do not know what the transportation is going to look like, but our commitment is to making sure that kids are safe and that parents can work. So that I can say.
Okay. Any questions?
Just a
Hi,
comment.
Linda, how are you? This is Elba. How
Hey,
you
Miss
doing?
Elba, how are you?
I'm fine. I was just gonna ask you, there was a point made on your audit concerning FDIC coverage, and I wanted to ask you if you'd address that.
Yes, ma'am, we did. We actually opened up another CD. It was just a concern because at the time of the audit, we did have an overage of a little over 100,000, and so we went ahead and reinvested that in a different at a different bank. Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Linda.
Yes, ma'am.
Good job.
Dolly, just a comment, and I made it before, and I'll make it now that you're here again. My hat goes off to you and your team at the McAllen Boys and Girls Club. I think at times of this pandemic, your services are even more critical to keeping our kids safe and allowing people to keep their house safe and be able to work, and the services you're providing in light of the schools being shut down and at the beginning of the pandemic, and who knows what the fall is going to look like. But again, my hat goes off to you and your team, and continue doing the great work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I had a question. You know, you have a national Boys and Girls Club, and every parts of the country are affected kind of the same way. Are you getting some guidance on, because it's an ebb and flow, and now we're under worse times in other places? What is the trend nationally for Boys and Girls Club, and are we getting any innovative ideas, or how's all that work?
Absolutely. However, I will tell you that because we reopened when when other clubs across the state and country were a little apprehensive, we actually helped to co-author a lot of the implementation plans that went out nationally. So we've usually been the recipients of the human capital that happens across the country, but we are actually co-authoring implementation plans. I also want to mention that when other clubs across the state or the country kind of went to like state guidelines, we continued from April 17th all the way to now at upholding CDC guidelines. And that, of course, takes a significant investment, but we know that that's the right thing to do for our families, and so we upheld that. So when this early data is coming in regarding childcare and how there's that community spread, I can tell you that we've been open for almost 6 weeks, and we've not had spread within our actual clubhouses. Familial spread that we report to the county, yes, we've seen that. And we've also been able to stop almost 20 children at this point that have come in. We do the early detection as we'll continue through after school programming. We've been able to stop them from entering, and we've been able to send them back out. So in terms of the spread, we actually have districts that are calling us. UTRGV is also wondering what that looks like, and the superintendent as well. So I can tell you that we'll continue that, but it takes a significant investment to do it.
I have a quick question. I know that you mentioned that you have a specific age group that you're taking in because of these kids cannot stay home while mom and dad are going to work. In this case, what specifically are you doing to avoid or to protect these children from contaminating each other at this point?
At this point, absolutely, that's a good question. So upon entering, the parents don't get off of their vehicle. But they do have to stay, and so we take their temperature outside. We have a list of questions every single day, and then they're able to enter. Employees and children wear masks at all times, including physical activity, which, by the way, they do great. There's a lot of rhetoric happening whether children can do well with masks on. I can tell you that for 6 weeks they've worn them every day, and it's also a fashion statement at this point, honestly, for them. They do keep them on at all times. Every hour we have an alarm and we wash their hands. And they're also, mindful of that, and they know it's part of what they're going to do. We make it fun. When they get closer to 6 feet, we immediately airplane arms. And they also understand that that's where they need to move away from each other. We do have smaller class sizes. So we do have 10 to 1, which last summer we actually had about 30 campers to 2 employees. So it's significantly smaller. We're in the same position in terms of the school districts where we're going to have lower ratios to keep them safer. And so again, that investment money is going to allow us to do that.
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else, any questions?
I don't have a question, Mayor, but I'd just like to say as a past board member and past president of the club, I was able to spend a lot of good years with the mayor. It was always very challenging with the budget and keeping everything going in a normal year. And so I applaud what y'all are doing, the fact that you're recognizing and pivoting and doing all you can. And so thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I actually want to mention that too, is that we are actively pursuing monies outside of this region. We are placing ourselves at tables where they won't forget us, including national tables. And we've been able to secure about $60,000 from the time that we've closed in March up until now. And so we are certainly doing our part as well. But we also know that in order to be able to continue to serve as many children as need to be served, it's going to take a lot more money because of the smaller sizes. So I can tell you that we are doing our part. But again, any local investment money is going to help.
Great.
Okay. That's it? Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dorita.
Thank you, Ms. Alva. Appreciate it.
Be careful.
Thanks, Maya.
We still playing basketball this year, or is that gonna be done?
I'm going to go with that stuff. Yes.
Okay, next up is
Thank
Easter
you, I
Seals
appreciate the comment.
of the RGB. Last but not least, right? Is that right? Last but not least? Watch your step. Right there.
That's your job.
Have you tripped over 3 or 4 times?
Hi.
We have the Development Corps, CDG Board, and of course, City Commission, make up the majority of the Development Corps. We have them here, and they're also on the screen over there. So you want to introduce yourselves and
Sure.
make your presentation.
Thank you. Are we the closers?
You're the closer.
Okay. Are you falling asleep behind your masks? I'm Patty Rosenlund, Executive Director of Easter Seals. This is David Elizondo, our CFO. So thank you for the opportunity to come and present. I'll make it very brief, as we are the closers. And looking at the list, everybody's well-deserving, right? So our Easter Seals across the street is requesting funding for a parking lot. And I don't know if does this break the rules if you touch a paper that I touched?
No, I think it's.
Okay. There's a few. Just to highlight the parking lot condition is very rutted. It's been patched, but reality is it needs to be redone. And although we have a healthy budget, our organization is really funded through grants, which do not allow construction projects like parking lots. So at our site, we have a child care center, which is our on-site program. And so we have between 60 and 80 families, children and their families, coming there every day. And it is the setting for the kids to take their walks and to have their buggy rides. So it's not the best setting for that is all. We've been a neighbor to the city for many years, since the 50s, and we've been in the community serving families with kids and adults with disabilities for over 68 years. We kind of feel like that would just bring some downtown beautification to this corner in the neighborhood. We'd like to be a little less in the hood and a little more uptown to the downtown, and would really appreciate that. Just a fun fact, Easter Seals owns the building, and the city actually owns the land and generally. Yeah. I sort of don't want to bring that up, because don't get any ideas about wanting to take it.
We wouldn't have a place to go.
Don't make me homeless, but please help me with the parking lot.
It's $1 a year lease, I think.
I think it is. I probably owe you a buck or two, too.
Okay. I had a question for city manager. You know, if you were to do that, would it be when Cutler's here, or?
Yeah, that would be our best option. It's very efficient, and he'd be able to go in and out.
And this, it said this price though was based on a 3-year-old bid, so would it be more? Price?
Well, I called Fred because I couldn't believe the last time I asked for it was in 2017. And I called to see if he would maintain that, and he said he would work with me. So I don't, maybe.
With oil the way it is right now, so it might be lower.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be low.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
You can do that this afternoon, Trey, couldn't you?
Oh, good, because, right now, everybody's working
Mayor.
from home, so the timing would be awesome.
Yeah.
We'd have to move like our 2 cars would be about it.
Okay. Well, I know we talked about it a couple years ago, so.
I know you all are sick of hearing me or seeing me, and I see you in HEB and you run the other way.
Any questions or comments? You know, it's an unusual request for all the services you provide. Absolutely, we understand that.
Yeah, I figured you would. I wish, and we're real proud that the donations we get go back to services. So I just don't know when there'll ever be a time that I'd be able to carve out money for a parking lot and not feel guilty that it didn't go to services.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Be careful on the way.
Yes. I feel like I'm gonna fall.
Okay, any wrap-up comments or questions? We're gonna do this again after the CBDG board reviews the entities, and we're all welcome to go along with CBDG boards if we want, I think, and we would welcome that. And then they'll come back and make recommendations, maybe not recommendations, but their findings or review, similar to what they do for CBDG entities. I might point out that from a city standpoint, we do CBDG money, we do general fund money, and we do development core money. And our total to nonprofits runs about $6 million a year. Significant amount of money when you think about it. Not any great amounts of money to individual entities when you add all the entities up that we serve. And so being on different boards, we don't see all the ones we did. And so I've asked Michelle to put together a list of all the entities we serve with the budgets we do to get us a better picture of the overall contributions that the city makes to its nonprofit partners. And they certainly are considered partners. I don't want to, don't think that we don't need the services and their wanted services, et cetera, but we're all under budget constraints now, and so we have to take a look at that and want you to realize it's not just Development Corps or CBDG that gets city funding. So, Roy, anything else?
No, well, yes, we will obviously bring this back as part of the overall budget. You'll be able to look at the entire budget and then of course, and we're several weeks from that, usually probably the second week of August. If you'd like, we can bring the budget as soon as it's ready, kind of a preliminary one. Right now, it's the second week.
In your budget for both, obviously CBDG and Development Corps are dependent on the outcomes of what goes forward, even if.
Correct. I mean, we have to have an initial budget, so what we do is then we plug in the number that we used last year. It's not a recommendation, it's
Okay.
just a way for us to.
Yeah, I want to point that out. Yeah, the budget, what number in the budget is going to be what they got last year. Just for reference sources, it's not necessarily a city commission or a city manager recommendation.
Correct.
It's just the number. Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Mayor, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Last year, you're not talking about the site visits, right? Because last year, Michelle did a list, or I don't know who, and each, Development Corps board member was invited to attend site visits for these agencies that are funded and awarded via the Development Corporation. So I don't know that we're talking about doing that. I don't know what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. The Development Corps board members handled that task last year.
Yeah, I know. And since they're not here, I've asked CBDG to do it like they have in the last couple of years. And any member of the Development Corps that wants to attend the CBDG meeting with the entity agencies certainly can do that. Yeah.
Right, and what I was telling you is that last year we did do that, the
Right.
Development Corps did do that, so I'm just letting you know that.
Okay, right.
One thing also, I know that the CDBG board often asks for guidance, as to if there should be a look at cuts, or if we should just look at the applications on there. I know they kind of wrestle with that and determine what we should award.
I don't know as if we want to ask CBDG to make specific cut recommendations. You know, last year we said whatever we did last year is a 5%. And I think more is evaluation of their applications in some, you know, the typical, I've been through a lot of, on the other side of that, typical questions and effectiveness of some of the programs and what they do is for the CBDG entities and come back to us. I think most of us are familiar with the programs from a standpoint of worthiness to the community, and if we are going to have budget cuts, what those should be appropriately. I would probably like to see us not necessarily do a straight across the board cut. If it would be a minimum straight across the board, and then maybe a little bit on, I don't want to use a merit, that's not the right term, needs in the community, if you will.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us really spend the time to try to do that. So that's just my opinion as where we should go. But I think everybody expects a little tightening of the belt, if you will. And then I think evaluation on need. Okay? All right, everybody, anybody else?
And also, which ones are better tailored to adjust?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And that's one of the
some can
questions.
adjust a lot easier from an operating budget compared to other organizations.
I would think we'd have to have some flexibility depending on how the pandemic plays out. You know, it wouldn't be fair that one that's more affected by the pandemic than another get cut for a whole year.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic's over and they have trouble getting started again. So I think we need to take that into consideration. I don't know, CBG is a little more difficult to do than Development Corps or City Commission General Fund, since we control that and the federal government has something to do with that. But I would think we would possibly look at especially entities that have a significant problem of not, because of the pandemic, and not fully funding them in the beginning, and say, we'll look at it mid-year or whatever would be appropriate relating to the conditions based on the pandemic. Okay?
Thank
Anybody have any questions? Well then, have a good evening. Thanks for spending the time. It's very important to our community. These are the entities that really are in touch with the community on a daily basis, and appreciate it, and be safe out there.
Thank you.